Well, in today's video, we're going to be taking a trip down memory lane and answering one of my most asked questions. Out of all of the bikes that I've gotten rid of over the years, why do I still have the 250L? Let's start out at the very beginning when I first bought this thing. So this wasn't something that was planned. I'm on Facebook Marketplace all the time looking for deals on things, and this just so happened to pop up in my feed, and it was too good of a deal to pass up. I think he was asking somewhere in the ballpark of $3,500 to $4,000. I didn't really have a lot of extra money at the time, so I sent him an offer that I could afford, and for some reason he accepted. So I can't remember if it was that night or the following day. Alexis, my buddy Alex, and I loaded up in the truck, had to make a pit stop because I almost shit my pants, and headed to the ghetto of Columbus to go look at this thing. The only other bikes that I had at the time were the Grom, the KLX110, the KX250, which did not run at the time, and I think that was it. So what really caught my attention was the price, the fact that I wanted to ride a dirt bike again, and I just liked the overall look of it. For the money, I was getting something modern with fuel injection that looked good in my opinion. So like I said, we piled up into the truck and went to pick this thing up. It had right around 1,000 miles at the time. He had already had the Kenda Trackmasters installed in the front and rear, $300 Seat Concepts comfort seat, and the Zeta handguards, which I'm still running to this day. So it was pretty much kitted out, had the fender eliminator as well, so it looked good and I knew I wanted it. So a short little test ride, maybe a couple wheelies later, we loaded it up and we headed back home. What do you think?
I think it's a good deal.
Well guys, we made it. We did the deal. Everything worked out. It got a little bit sketchy, but overall the dude was a really nice guy and I got a super good deal on this bike. I can't wait to show you guys what's done to it. Let me know whether you think I should keep it or not. Like Alex said, I'm going to give it a chance first and see whether I want to keep it, list it. Who knows what I'll end up doing, but what do you think?
Worked out.
Was it sketchy at first?
It was sketchy. I was sweating.
Was it sketchy?
I didn't like the abandoned house that he had us go up to.
We got a bird in the wood stove again. Awesome. Perfect timing. Come on, birdie. Oh, brother! Oh my God! Always the starlings, man. Well, you guys, I figured we'd finish this video outdoors because it's a beautiful day. I got the motovlogging setup back up and going, and it's a beautiful freaking day, so let's go for a ride. Man, it has been a long time, not only since I've ridden this bike, but I've done a motovlog, so bear with me, but I'm excited to be out here. I really do love this bike, and we're gonna finish that conversation on why I still have and still love the 250L so much after owning some of the almost best bikes in their class. Man, I got that four-wheeler mindset. We are not gonna go in that creek. Still pops up like nothing. Woo! Gotta be careful though, man. Still got that blown out ACL. My ACL is literally non-existent in my leg right now. Out here wheeling a damn dirt bike. Ooh, a little wet through here. Take a little stroll around the farm, see how things are looking. We gotta go get gas too. We got like 1 bar. Oh, I love how soft this thing is, man. The ride is super soft, especially like this when I'm not riding aggressively. It's nice. Oh, hey, what's up, guys? Feels good to be back out on 2 wheels. Whether I should be doing this or not, I don't care, because I'm having a good time. I needed it. I'm enjoying it. It's going to be like a high of 70 today, so we're moving in the right direction. Spring is here. From the dirt to the street, That dual sport life, baby. $87 only, baby. Man, this is the first time that I filled this bike up at a gas station in years. It is windy as hell outside today. How much that cost us? Full tank for $338. Can't beat that. No receipt. Let's get out of here. FMF is obnoxious. It's time to talk 250L. Why do I still have the big red pig? So I think we left off when we were going to pick up this bike. So we got there in the Columbus ghetto, little sketchy situation, but we ended up finding the guy. I test rode the bike and I knew I wanted it. I loved it. I loved everything that was done to it. The tires, I mean, the skid plate, the rack, the bark busters, the fender eliminator, everything was done to it that I would want to do to it. So the next few months, I rode the hell out of this bike. I mean, I was taking it everywhere, bike nights, all over the street, trespassing, doing all the good, fun, dual sport, hooligan activities. And this bike really became an extension of me, and I loved every second of riding it. The more that I owned the bike, the more that I was riding off-road. I had a lot of friends at the time that were getting into dirt bikes, and I got invited to a few different rides, and I always knew that it wasn't going to be as enjoyable on the 250L rather than a dirt bike, but I fell in love riding it in the dirt just as much. I had a blast. I was doing everything that the dirt bikes were doing. It was just always there for me when I needed it. I didn't need to worry about anything. I knew when I turned that key and hit that button, it was going to fire up and it was going to get me through the ride. And that's a lot of why I loved this bike, and really why it's still around. It's just a low maintenance machine. You don't have to do a lot. Just keep a little bit of oil in there and it will run. Now here's where things started getting different with the 250L. As I progressed in riding off-road, the more and more this bike started to hold me back. My friends were getting better, I was getting better, and I really wanted something that I could push the envelope on a little more, and the stuff that I was trying to do with this thing was just not meant for that. At first it was just a lot of 2-track and just a lot of easy ATV trails, but we progressed to some gnarly single track and hill climbs. You know, I loved my hill climbs, so this was not really the bike for that. So my quest for my next bike began. The 450L was out for a couple years now, and I had my eyes on it. So I was checking used prices, and sure enough, I ended up finding a really good deal at a dealership. You guys know me, I don't buy stuff at dealerships, so it must have been a good deal. And I ended up following through, put a little deposit on it, and we headed out to Morgantown, West Virginia to pick up my dream bike. That's what I called it at the time. Throughout this process, I was building out the shop, and I didn't really have a lot of time to do anything else. It was winter, and riding wasn't really a priority. I needed the shop built. I needed a place to create content, work on stuff, and a place that was insulated. And yeah, long story short, we spent that whole winter daily vlogging the barn build series and building up the shop, and the 450L sat in the basement for like, I don't know, 3-4 months until spring. So it was finally time to unveil the beast. I had rode MJ's Husky 350 at the time, did a little joke with the videos, acting like it was mine, blah, 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 whatever. And then I ended up bringing the 450L out, and it was a big reveal. But I even remember, man, the first time that I rode it, I had some flame out issues, and I wasn't happy with it. Don't get me wrong, it was leaps ahead performance-wise in the 250L. The power was crazy. The weight, I didn't really notice as much from what I remember. It wasn't like a huge difference. But ultimately, when making that video and riding through the creek and doing some log crossings and stuff, I stalled it a bunch, and it really just left a bad first impression and an overall bad taste in my mouth towards the 450L, and it only got worse from there. That following spring, we rode pretty much every weekend, and the more and more I rode the 450L, the more I regretted buying it. At the end of the day, it was still an overweight, heavy dual sport that just wasn't the same as a dirt bike. I would have had to have spent like another $2,000 to get it run properly, and to stop stalling I would have had to done the Vortex ECU, the exhaust, etc, etc, and I just wasn't willing to do that on a $10,000 bike. I didn't pay that much, but you get the point. It's just overkill, and it still wouldn't be the same as a dirt bike. Not to mention 450s are just too much for the trails. Oh, a little groundhog there. Man, it is freaking beautiful, baby. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I still got it. Don't want to slow it down too much. I do need a new rear rotor. Boomhauer, if you want to buy me a rear rotor for riding it this weekend, it'd be appreciated. But each time that I rode the 450L, the more I struggled with it, the more I was having to lug it around, and the thing was freaking heavy. Yes, it was lighter than the 250L, but it still felt heavy. Just go back and watch the 450 videos on my channel, man. I was struggling, and the bike just wasn't for me, and I ended up selling it. And then my search for the next bike began. I ended up biting the bullet and just went on the full opposite end of the spectrum for something not so reliable but more performance based, and we picked up the 2018 KTM 250 XCW. Right away I fell in love with that bike. It took me back to my roots as a dirt bike rider on a two-stroke, and in the future I won't, get anything else for that purpose. We were doing enduro riding, so it makes sense that you'd want an enduro bike. And with the two-stroke and the type of riding that I like to do, I like to go really slow sometimes, lug the technical stuff, not work the clutch a bunch like I was with the 4-strokes and the 450s. But man, that bike I fell in love with, and it served the purpose great. I ended up selling it after I broke my leg, but if it wasn't for that, I would still have it. But what I'm getting at is my interests changed and off-roading took over my life. In my experience, it's safer, minus me breaking my leg, but a broken leg is different than getting hit by a car and dying. So for me, and the way that YouTube was at the time, I like to do wheelies and stuff on the streets, and YouTube was just demonetizing all that stuff and not promoting it, so it just made sense, and I enjoy off-road more. Should I have mixed a little bit of the 250L content and the dual sport stuff into it? Sure, I would have had fun doing that too, but off-roading consumed my life and it became an obsession. So the 250L just sat, collected dust. That last ride ended up denting the tank, so I wanted to go through it and revamp it, which we have just done. Still got a long way to go, but it literally sat for like over a year and collected dust because all we were doing was riding dirt bikes off-road. So that really is the story on the 250L. What happened to it, why my interest changed. As far as content wise, do I regret not making more 250L content because it was pretty much the bread and butter of my channel? Yeah, I have a little bit of regrets, but man, I was just having so much fun, and it sounds cliche, man, but you only live once. Do what you like to do, and I just loved riding off-road, so that's what we did. So during that time period, why did I not sell the 250L? You guys know I don't hold on to stuff. I'm constantly buying, selling, trading, flipping stuff, so why did I keep this, especially since it wasn't being used? Well, number one, it was in no condition to sell, and number two, a lot of you guys in the comments, man, were the reason that I kept this. You're like, dude, that's like what brought me to your channel. It's a staple on the channel, even more so than the Grom. I have way more attachment to this than I do the Grom, just because this bike has brought me a lot more joy and eventually led me to my passion again. I've also wanted to get back into dual sport riding. In this situation with my broken leg and the torn ACL, I will be able to do a lot of dual sport riding before I'm able to get back on a dirt bike and in the woods again. So for that, it makes sense. I do like real dual sport riding, from the streets to the trails. It's fun to me. So we'll definitely be doing a lot more of that on the channel, incorporating camping, riding out the different spots, etc, etc. So it makes sense to keep the old girl. I'm attached to her. I can't believe I'm saying that because I don't have much attachments in life, but I don't have much into it, it'd be silly to sell it and get something else, especially because this still fits the bill. It's fast enough for me. I know it's not a lot for many, but it's fast enough for me. It's comfortable enough for me. The weight on the street, I don't even notice it. I like it. I still prefer this over the DRZ all day long. Don't ask me why, it's just my thing. I have owned the DRZ 400 SM, the 450L, so like I've owned some of the most common supermotos. I've rode the WR450s, all that good stuff. The KTMs, 350s, 500s, whatever. You name it, I've rode it, and I still like this bike, if that says anything. The question is why? Well, I answered it. It's a low maintenance bike that's always going to be there when you need it. Parts are dirt cheap, and it really is a do-it-all machine, at least for me and for the price. Under 3 grand. As it sits, man, how can you beat that? A bike that can do so much, has 6 speeds, fuel injection, you can't beat it. That's what I was saying in the beginning, and I wasn't bullshitting. I'm still saying it now. So I won't ramble on too much more. That is why I still have the notorious 250L after all these years, after owning all these fancy bikes. This thing just does good at what it was meant to do. And you can go ahead and argue with me in the comments. I don't care, man. I can get any bike that I want. Not bragging, just saying. I can get any bike that I want, but I choose to keep this. So that should tell you something. I've never been paid a dime by Honda, let alone even received a message. But yet I've sold thousands, if not thousands and thousands of these 250Ls. And I haven't even got a DM from them. But that's all good. It's all love. I love Honda. They make quality products. And I'm just saying that I'm not being paid to say any of this stuff. It's just genuinely a good bike. And if you're willing to accept the limitations of this machine and appreciate what it can actually do, it's a fantastic bike. Why don't we bust a wheelie really quick? Oh! Let's not bust a wheelie and end up in the ditch. Dude, it really is the wind. I just wanted to be sure, but we're on a different road. This wind's got me all over the place. She ain't the fastest, but man, I'm having fun and I got a smile on my face. It's a beautiful day. Should have brought a damn parasail and strapped it onto my back. Oh my gosh, the river is still really high. I was hoping it would go down so I could take the four-wheeler. I know a lot of spots that get shallow enough that we could take the four-wheeler down in there and have some fun and even go to some different islands and whatnot. So that'll be in a future video. Unfortunately, the four-wheeler videos, they just don't do the best on my channel because it's not what I'm known for, and YouTube likes people to stick to their craft. They really see me as a motovlogger and kind of bike talk guy, so all those videos do super good. Granted, all the buying and selling videos do good because people like to see you waste money. In my case, make money. What's going on, man? It's a beautiful day to be on 2 wheels. But regardless, I'm gonna do what I love and do what I can at the moment. So plenty of four-wheeler vlogs coming soon, and hint, 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 we might be doing something different. So that's all I'm gonna say. A lot of you guys guessed it, but man, I don't know why I still surprise myself. But I think that's going to wrap up the video. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you watching. I'm glad to have you in the community, and it's awesome what we've built. So let's keep growing, spread the message. You can help by hitting that like button. It just helps push the videos. Other than that, if you want to see more moto vlogs and more 250L action, let me know. I do have plans with this bike, some pretty awesome plans soon. We might be going some street wheels maybe, but Boomhauer wants to get his fun in this weekend, so I'm gonna let him do his thing, do some hill climbs, and hopefully if this thing's still in one piece, we'll put some more love into her, get her all cleaned up, looking nice and sexy for when I get out of surgery and when I'm able to have a nice little sumo to play around on. So that's the plan. Let me know your thoughts, and until the next video and Sunday's live stream, we'll see you then.